Hey there, today I'm going to be talking about how I'm preparing Willow in order to make a basket. So first off, my name is Taylor Sievers and this is Blue and Handcraft. So there's a lot of different natural materials that you can use in order to make your very own baskets. Over centuries, humans have foraged materials, used the materials that they had in their specific regions to make all sorts of different types of structures and baskets and anything to be able to carry items with, right? And Willow has famously been one that has been very, very popular, but it has some learning curves when you are trying to work with it. And I personally have learned that through this journey. So in today's video, I'm just going to walk you through the actual preparation steps of taking your dry willow rods. So they've been previously harvested during the winter time and dried for a period of time, and then I'm soaking them, mellowing them, and so I'm just going to take you along with that process and show you the results from that process. So without further ado, let's get going. Today we're building a makeshift water trough out of cinder blocks and greenhouse plastic. This was left over from our high tunnel build from 2021 and was extra end wall plastic. So I'm going to be lining the trough here with the greenhouse plastic and then filling it with water. And then what we're going to be doing is soaking willow rods here in the water for about 3 to 4 days, maybe more, depending on how long it needs to be soaked. This is my first time doing this. This is my first time working with Willow, and the goal is to make a basket. So I ordered some already dried willow from a company online, and I have never made a basket before. That's not true. I made a reed basket, but I've never made a willow basket before, and I am planting willow, just a very small willow patch, in order to maybe make my own baskets. Now, can you just go ahead and buy a cattle trough or sheep trough to soak your willow in? Yes, you can. Yes, you can, but I just thought I'm going to use what I have, and so here we are. This was actually a very wide piece of plastic, so I was able to double it up, just in case there's holes in it. And now we wait while it fills. Okay, here we are. The willow is soaking. I pulled about 120 twigs or rods out of the bundles. I have 3 different sizes of bundles. They're not very long. Most of the time you can order them in you can order up to 6 feet or even more than that. I just want, my first project is going to be a small berry basket. So medium baskets, it says that you need about 120-ish rods, but I do feel like mine are a little bit short, so I think I might throw in a few extra just for the bottom. I didn't think about weaving the bottom, but this is how you do it. You soak it. Willow rods actually float, just like this piece of wood here is kind of floating. So I'm just using some bricks to hold the willow down. Okay, this is technically around 48 hours since I put the willow into my makeshift trough. You can see that the water is orangish brown, and no, that is not because of the willow. That is because our water is from a well and it has a lot of iron in it. And for some reason, it just looks like this after a day. When you're first filling it up, it doesn't look like this, but then a day in the sunlight and it looks like this. So it's kind of gross. but that's the water we're working with. I do see that one of my sticks came up from out of the water, so I'm gonna fix that here in a minute. But other than that, everything else is still submerged, and I was gonna wait about 3 days and then check it, but I might check it now just to see, and then after we're done, I will start the mellowing process, which is where you kind of wrap it in a damp towel and let it sit for a few days to kind of like let the moisture evenly distribute throughout the stem. But you want to be careful during that stage that it doesn't mold either. So lots of things to consider. The bricks did a good job keeping everything down though. So I took a stick out, and it does appear when I bend it that it is cracking a little bit. So that's how we know it is not ready yet. Although this was the one that was a little bit stuck up above the water, but I didn't expect it to be anyways. So hopefully tomorrow it doesn't crack like that. I may try further up on the stem because this is the lower the butt end of the stick. Okay, we are on day 3 of soaking the willow. So this evening will be technically the 3rd full day. I just wanted to take a couple sticks out, and we will check whether the willow is ready to mellow. I'm gonna grab like a thicker and a thinner one, I think. So we're gonna bend it at a 90 degree, and we don't want it to break. Okay, there's a piece of grass on that, so it does not appear to be breaking, and I'm at a 90 degree angle. So it does appear that this one is bending at a 90 degree and not snapping. So that's kind of what we want to see. Now I bent it the opposite way and it is snapping. So we'll check another one. I probably shouldn't be bending the opposite way. And we're going to bend up here. Ooh, we got a little bit of snappage there further up. So I might leave this for, just based on this, probably going to leave it for another day, but we'll look at another stick. I also wonder how much the mellowing process might help with this too. Softening it, you know. Bending, gently bending. Oh, we got some splittage. Splitting a little bit already. The bark is. It's splitting, but it's not necessarily like completely breaking. See, this isn't splitting right here. So I do feel like one more day, maybe not even a full day, like a half a day, which some of these are like 4 foot long. So they say 1 foot per day. So if it's a 4 foot long stick, it needs to be 4 days. If it's 5 foot, 5 days, 3 foot, 3 days. Some of these are longer than 3 feet. Here is a little bit thinner one. Ooh, this one feels really nice when you bend it. Feels a little more supple. This one seems nicer. So this is a little bit thinner and shorter. That is where we are at. I'm gonna wait one more day, and I think tomorrow it will be ready to go. So we'll get a towel, probably dampen it a little bit and wrap this all up in it, and I will probably keep this in my garage because I don't really want it to be too hot on the material, or it's going to rain tomorrow, so I don't really want it to rain on it either. So I'll probably wrap it up and just keep it in the garage for 2 to 3 days, and then we'll see. Okay, so now you saw my whole process of how I went through the soaking stage, and now I'm going to show you the final product. Unfortunately, when you get in the mode of weaving, you don't really want to stop, and it's kind of hard when you're just weaving at night later at night to like film everything. So that is a video for another day, but I just wanted to share my finished product and kind of discuss some of the issues that I had with it and what I think could be done to make it better. So this is my finished Willow basket. You can probably already see the flaws, especially if you are a maker yourself. But even to the untrained eye, I think you can see some of the flaws in this basket so far. First of all, the first thing you're going to be seeing here is this bark slippage that occurred. So it's not necessarily broken, it's just the bark has slaked off the willow. And so I actually had a hard time when I was looking for why would the bark slake off of the willow. I had a hard time like trying to find answers for that. I knew I had read about why it would occur. I just wanted to confirm why this was occurring. And as I'm searching for this, slaking is not the correct term because a lot of the things that popped up were how to strip the bark off your willow. So there is something called brown willow, which is what I use, and that is the willow with the bark still on it. And then there is like a stripped willow, or sometimes called buff willow, I believe, where they actually strip the bark, take the bark off of it. And so that's not what I was dealing with. So I wasn't dealing with purposefully wanting for the bark to come off, because when we use brown willow, we don't want the bark to come off, especially while we're weaving, because we're going to have some areas where it comes off and some areas where it's not, and it just looks really, really sloppy, and we don't want that. I'm sure longevity wise it's not that great either, because I feel like the bark in itself is going to provide some maybe weather resistance, I guess you could say. So the term is bark slipping, not slaking. At least that's what I found. And so there are reasons why you might get some of these results. Now, again, my willow was actually not snapping. So it was the bark was actually slipping off of it. And so what I learned is that it can be variety dependent. So this variety is Americana that I use, or it can be methods of drying could be an issue, using older willow or too young of willow. And then I think the main reason why this occurred to me is that just over soaking possibly. I'm going to say it's probably a combination of variety and over soaking, to be honest, because when I look at other willow varieties online, other people making their baskets, the willow itself, when it was hydrated, looked a lot better, a little bit higher quality. Again, it's probably dependent on the variety. I think that was not ideal. Also, I noticed it was on the thicker rods, so the thicker rods seem to have more of that issue than the thinner rods. And what I want to do differently in the future is my bottom stakes and my upright stakes are thick, right? And the stakes that I used to do the 3-rod whale on the bottom and up here were the same width. They're basically the same stakes, and they're thicker. And I think that caused some of an issue. I never had one actually outright snap. I did have a little bit of breakage on some of them. But so using thinner willow, maybe not over soaking it. I did soak it for a few days, and each of my willow, I had 2 different lengths of willow rod sizes. I also wondering if the mellowing stage, maybe I mellowed it for too long. I think in a nutshell, the point is that the slippage occurs when there's too much moisture, and that bark can just become slippery and just want to break and peel off. And you could feel it in the actual rod. It just didn't feel good. Maybe, I'm not going to say slimy because it wasn't to that level yet. It wasn't the best quality, and I tried to avoid using those. Eventually I got to the point in the basket where I was like, I just got to get done. So when I started seeing that the bark was slipping on ones that I was using, instead of just pulling them out, I just finished the basket because I had so many mistakes in it already that I was like, it's really not worth this. So I'll save the nicer stakes for making another basket. I also learned that I pulled out too many stakes. So a medium-sized basket was supposed to take about 120 rods of willow, and I pulled out probably 130 to maybe 140, and I still have like at least, I'm gonna say close to half of those steaks left. So for this size of basket, this is not a medium size. This would probably be considered more of a small size, I guess. For this size of basket, you don't need that many. Now, again, I do have some gaps in here, so it's not perfect, but I still don't think that I obviously didn't need that many steaks. Not having a wrapping iron, I thought, oh, I can get away with really minimal tools. I'll use a screwdriver if I need to, because I'm not going to buy a bodkin because I have so many different tools and whatnots. I don't need to buy another tool. And then the wrapping iron, I thought, well, I'll just kind of like use the edge of my clippers or something like that. I do think it would be good to have a wrapping iron, which is basically a heavier piece of iron that's like flat, and you really bang the steaks down as you go. It just tightens it up a little bit more. Again, using thinner rods right here. I think that was my biggest thing, was it was just kind of too hard to get them to stay down and stay put. And because I didn't have the wrapping iron and I didn't have enough force driving the uprights in, I think that's why I have this gap here on the bottom as well. Not having a bodkin and just the way I wove the basket, I don't feel like I was able to get a sturdy enough handle in here. And also, I didn't follow any sort of instructions doing this side. I just wung it. So that was probably another mistake that I did. Well, so it's not super neat. It's not beautiful. It's not something that I'm going to write home about. It's not something I really even want to gift to anybody. It's misshapen. It's odd, but you know what? It's mine. I really enjoyed, this is my first time making an actual Willow basket. I've made one on a reed before, but I'm still really new to basket making. Yeah, so that was just the process that I took for soaking the willow, and it's kind of a standard procedure. And I hope you guys learned something from that. I certainly did. I still don't think I did anything wrong as far as the soaking is concerned. I think it's just a matter of like pulling out some of the rods that may have been ready a little bit sooner, and then maybe trying some different varieties as well. I still have some mellowing. I'm still going to try to use them to make another basket, and probably not as large, and we'll go from there. So if making your own basket really interests you, I wrote an article on Substack about basketry, and it has some great resources in there for like throughout my journey of learning crafts and skills. I tend to accumulate a lot of resources. And so there's a couple books linked in there, but there's also some other YouTube creators and just basket makers and interviews and all of that stuff. At the end of that article, I have so many different resources for even just ordering your own material in order to practice a little bit, maybe not in willow, but in reed, and talking about what reed is and different types of materials and all kinds of stuff. So it's a really good like summary article to kind of get you excited about basketry. Also, my thought process on why I wanted to make a basket in the first place and why I think it's important to keep these traditional skills alive. So if you're interested in that, I will link that article down below. So thank you guys for watching, and go create something. See you guys.